Hello, welcome to episode 2.
The reality of drugs. Well, our reality anyway. But yeah, this episode, as we said in the previous one, is that we're going to talk about the experiences, the good and the bad of each drug and inconsistent with our life. So yeah, we touched down quite a lot on weed. That just made me think about things a lot more, and it got to the point where I would just sort of have a spliff and then zone out. And all my mates around me were trying to talk to me, but I'd just be like, I couldn't move my body, and that's when I had the trips, and that's what started that off with me on the weed. What about you?
Weed? It sounds really bad, but I just really like weed. For me, has always been the drug of choice. I've always loved it. I love the highs. I don't get the paranoia side of things from the weed. I mean, everyone's different. This is one thing you've got to understand. What works for me might not necessarily work for Ricky. What works for Ricky might not necessarily work for me, which is why we try and give you a non-biased view. As far as like weed, I love being high. I would sit here and slag it off. The only time I ever do feel paranoid through weed is if I eat it. If I have weed cakes, hash cakes, things like that, then everything seems to go wrong for me. So obviously through life I've learnt that maybe eating it isn't the way forward for me.
Yeah, I've eaten it before, and that's just completely, it's just crazy.
So yeah, we've touched on weed. Weed's all good.
What was the next drug you did after that?
Speed. We discussed that I discussed my first experience on speed in the last episode.
My sort of next drug, it must have been sort of ecstasy, wasn't it, at that rave? I can remember when we got there. Obviously Joe was a lot older, so when we go back in our lives, he's sort of a bit more advanced in the drugs when I'm here. But yeah, we got there.
I was selling them, wasn't I?
Yeah, and then you give me a couple, and you were like, yeah, just double drop, and I was looking at them, and I was quite afraid.
Did I tell you to double drop?
Yeah, you give me two, and you said just take them.
Really?
Yeah.
That is bad.
Yeah,
Jamie.
that is bad.
Jamie.
So anyway, I had these two pills, and we were at an illegal rave, and there's like about 400 people going crazy at the stack, and I really wanted to go in there because I love dancing. So he'd come and give me these pills, and I was like, I was really nervous. So I sort of looked at them, sort of took both of them, sort of bit one in half, and took half of it, and acted like I double dropped. And then I just looked at them and thought, bugger it, double dropped them, and that fear of me going into that stack just went. And I
remember you was in there.
And I spent all night at the front of the speakers going absolutely crazy. I was euphoric. Eventually, I felt so connected to everyone in the room. I controlled them so much that like when the music dropped and we all sort of united, I ended up pulling the whole stack to the back of the barn, and we all rushed back to rave. And from that moment, I was just really euphoric. And eventually, when the rave finished, I went back, and I can remember I just crashed really bad, and everyone thought I was dead, like pretty much, because I was just gone. And that's what it does. It's great going out partying and great. It's like what happens when you come back, and because you're surrounded by people doing it, you're not going to have someone there that everyone did look out for each other. Don't get me wrong, and it is good to look out for each other, but when they're all wrecked, it's things can go wrong.
So as we've experienced,
and back then obviously we used to do sort of speed. It was keep you up when you get back. You feel tired, you do a bit of speed, and it's
I think we come home from that rave and did magic mushrooms, if I remember right.
I didn't. You must have done. I was gone.
Yeah. Well, my first experience on pills has to be I was at a club in London, and a friend of mine, the same person who gave me the speed, no names, she gave me half a pill. I mean, don't get me wrong, this was back in the 90s, when you could take one pill and you'd be buzzing for 8 hours non-stop. I took half of this ecstasy pill. God knows what it was, I can't remember the name, what type it was. However, I spent all night in the toilet after feeling the rushing, the euphoric feeling that you get, and the butterflies in your stomach and everything else, and you start rushing. I felt sick, and I spent the whole night in the toilet. And I remember I came out once during the whole night, and that was to dance to Let Me Be Your Fantasy. That's how long it's going back.
Let me be your fantasy.
Yeah, so I remember that. A lot of people still talk about that night to me.
It's quite weird as well, because I can remember like ecstasy, because back in the day, like we used to do a lot of ecstasy and speed, That was, at that time you can be completely different on them, wouldn't you? We'd double drop at the same time. Within sort of half hour, you'd be gone, wouldn't you? You'd be like laying on the sofa like this, and then you'd wake up and be like, oh, I'm on a roller coaster, back to sleep. And then like I sort of went for a stage of where I'd double drop and feel nothing, and looking at you going, I want to be like that. What the hell? Do you know what I mean?
Then I remember us having this discussion. And I remember saying to you that it's because I relaxed and let it happen.
But me, I was waiting for it, wouldn't I? And sort of like I'd double drop more, and then I'd do another more, and then I'd be like, oh, I've done 6. What the hell? And then like it'd get me, and then because I was always waiting for it, and in my eyes, I've always felt like I had a control over it a lot, and I was always quite a control freak when it come to feelings and the way my mind was. So my mind sort of overrid it for a quite long while, wasn't it? For about a year of us doing them, I'd always like expect something and never get it. And I think when you fight it, that's what creates the problems in your mind. When you just let it go, and eventually we sort of did, but it went around this time that happened. And then that was a sort of, we used to go out for long walks, didn't we? We used to get buzzed up and then walk around stupid hours in the morning. Obviously you couldn't really get away. Go and play fields, I can remember a time when I climbed up, and the things like when you're on drugs, things just can happen. And as I said, it's not a good thing to be walking around doing. I can remember when I slipped and got my arm caught. You remember that drain? I could have fell so far. I was like, Jay, quick, and then sort of helped me and got off. And I can remember the time we went down that same bit, and there's that dog went there. We never know. Can you remember? And it was like growling. This big dog. We couldn't see it. It was pitch black. Can you remember?
I remember the iron gates.
Oh right, that was because we were tripping for so long. Yeah. We'll go on to speed as well. Like the longest we were up for on speed was like 4 or 5 nights, wasn't it? And by that time we're just tripping bad, and it's not good. Like there's a lot of experiences. And it's a lot of power of the mind, isn't it?
Yeah. Although talking about speed, like you say, our experience like the longest was 4 or 5 days. I mean mine, I remember a certain very good friend of mine come round for the weekend. I'd already been on it for a couple of days beforehand. She came round on the Friday. We done an ounce and a half of pink champagne, which is top quality speed. I'm not saying top quality as in go out and buy some. I'm saying top quality as in it's the strongest.
Best in its form,
and we'd done all that, and I remember she went home on the Sunday. She came back round my house on Wednesday to find that I'd barricaded my house up. Had been doing a lot more pink champagne after that, and she came in, flushed my drugs down the toilet and told me to go to sleep.
Because it does get you like that, Once you get cut on something, you want to keep going, do you?
Yeah, of course. Like we said in the first episode, me and Ricky, there's no half measures. It's either you can go all in or just don't go at all, which is a very, very bad thing for an addict or addicts like we are.
Addictive personalities.
To feel. So yeah, I mean that was speed.
The effects it has on you as well, like
the paranoia.
The effects. I can remember that time when we did 5 days. Then when at the last day, because we were with my girlfriend at the time, I went, didn't I, to North Horsham, and this was something that sort of damaged, our relationship at the time. It was pretty weird, wasn't it? And then I come back and I sort of got paranoid that they'd slept together because it looked like she had been in the bath and that, wouldn't it? And then I spent up the best part of like 5 hours in the hallway to this flat talking to my girlfriend at the time, trying to work out a formula of telling Jay that she's told me that they've slept together, and we were going over and over again, and like the sort of hallway was just stretching and stretching and stretching and just went on forever. And it's the weird effects of drugs is like when me and my girlfriend were talking, I saw this girl holding my hand like a ghostly figure, and after that experience I remember speaking to her about it, and she saw it too, and we never spoke about it then, and it's just things like that just are out of this world. And eventually, like it was, Jay was sitting in this room on his own tripping for hours and hours, and eventually I come in and was like, look, she's told me everything. And the stupidest thing of like her putting her arm in there saying, yep, she's told me everything. It took me 5 hours to work out that that's what I was going to do, and it's just, why would you do that to yourself, But it was good like before it all went peach on, wasn't it?
I mean, we was having a good old time. We obviously blamed the drugs. We thought we'd taken something that was laced with something else, etc., etc., which is always a risk. However, it wasn't. We'd been up to speed for.
But he did say when I picked up that
it was very strong.
Well, there was something. It had been making a lot of people go crazy, and it was quite liquidy, and it was either liquid K or acid, wasn't it? That we sort of boiled it down to. And you never know with these things. You know what I mean? It was from the same supplier. We'd done for the first 4 days, but this time it just completely we'd sit there and say, "Oh, we're raving on the moon." We were like, "Oh, look outside and you'll be on the moon," and that was just how powerful it was. And if you want to expose yourself to that, then do it. But just remember that someday it's all going to come crashing down. It nearly split me and Jay up, and we were best friends. And it played a lot of trouble in your life. And
I think we didn't speak to each other
for a long while after that because of that. I thought he'd slept with my girlfriend at the time. And it just why would you put that through your experience? So that's speed and stuff. We've had magic mushrooms that we used to do.
We've done a whole season of magic mushrooms.
Yeah, and in my bedroom
every day, like literally every single day, we'd go out picking. Yeah, they're free drugs.
Yeah, they're there.
If you've got the inclination to go out and pick. Yeah. However, can I just please put a recommendation out that unless you know what you're picking, please do not go out and pick.
Because there is a couple of ones
there's
a
ones
couple
that either will make you very, very ill, very, very sick, or you could end up in a coma or anything. If you pick the wrong type of mushroom, it's a very dangerous game.
Yeah.
However, I was well taught in the art of picking mushrooms. So we used to go out every day. We used to go pick, and we trip every single day.
I remember it was in my room and we did them, and I went downstairs to ask my sister for some Rizzlers, and then I was just like, in my house, and I didn't know what we were doing. Like the walls were just starting going, and that's funny. And then went upstairs, looked outside, all the grass was wiggling and stuff. And what you got to remember, if you are going to try these things, it's all about the state of mind. You could do mushrooms and trip and laugh your head off. Yeah. Or you could do mushrooms and it go completely the wrong way. I know someone who did mushrooms and he was out in the woods and he was running through the woods. He just got so worried, and he said he walked up to this girl and he saw the back of her, put his hand on her, and she turned around and her face was just black. Do you know what I mean? So we could sit here and tell you about all these good times, but there is bad times with it as well, and you've got to know that there is a risk. Any drug is a risk,
Yeah.
So
and it is a huge point of it is your state of mind at the time. Psychoactive drugs, while we're on the subject, if you're in a bad place before you take them,
don't do them.
Don't expect to have a good trip.
No,
I mean, because it's
like
all chemical.
Glass,
it's all chemical, and it will all alter everything. It will either make, if you're in a really happy place, it will make you. It could make you really great. If you're in a bad place, it could make you really, really bad.
It's the same with when we moved on to MDMA, we'd sit there and I'd just, snort a little bit and then bomb loads of it. And if you do want to do trips, try and sort of do a bit of ecstasy before, which makes you in a good mood. That's the way I got over it.
That's the way Ricky dealt with psychoactive drugs. Mainly was
be
to
buzzing
be buzzing
before you
first.
do them. But
however, I used to embrace psychoactive drugs. I don't like I don't don't mind combining them, but to me, psychoactive drugs should be
on their own.
Should be on their own, and they should be enjoyed on their own.
So moving forward, and I don't think it wasn't with you when I tried acid. It was with my mate. And basically, it was back in the day when I was sort of really paranoid and stuff, and eventually just sort of force-fed me this tab sort of thing. And we're just sort of chipping, and what annoyed me was he was sitting there saying he'll look after me, but he did the most, and he was just off in this world thinking we were recording him, me and this girl who was with us. And he was just tripping bad and trying to get any sense out of him. I'd walk to him and talk to him, and he'd walk off because he'd think he's in this. He got paranoid and thought he was on a TV show. So there's me sort of going through this thing on my own, and my friend said he would be there for me, and then that, it all just changes everything. You can end up in really bad situations. But I can remember when on my trip then, because I haven't done a lot of acid, I don't really like it because my mind is so creative in its own, in its way, it just gets lost.
I have tumbleweeds flying around.
But that's what I mean. That's where we're different. You do some drugs, and then you're completely different because that's the way your brain is.
Yeah.
I do drugs, and it's office. You know, when we talk about things, we'll go into ketamine really big in one episode as well. But we're completely different.
Yeah,
and
we're totally different.
Yeah, and different to a lot of people. But yeah, when I was on acid, I just sort of tripped and sort of realised I was a shepherd and everyone else is sheep. Like that's what I went through then. Like I have to help people and stuff like that. So you know, what about your acid sort of trip?
I've been doing acid probably since I was about 16 years old. I did my first acid tab. I think I was at school that day. They were little strawberry trips. I remember them, and we done this acid in lunchtime. I mean, we really didn't know what we was doing. There was a few of us at school. Someone offered it to us, and we done it. I remember going to the lesson, and I remember laughing the whole way through my English lesson. And so was my other friends. We couldn't keep it straight, but we all got kicked out of the class anyway. But I enjoyed it. You know, the next time I did acid, it was completely different. I was in an estate, and we went for a walk. We done this acid, went for a walk, and I could remember every street light. There looked like there was loads of people standing under these street lights, and I got on the paranoia thing. Got on the paranoid thing, and I went and hid behind some dustbins out the way for hours, crying like I thought everyone was out to get me. But I wanted to phone the police. I ended up phoning a very good friend of mine who I trusted, and he come picked me up and helped me through it. God bless him. Because he'd done a lot of acid in the past, and I knew I could phone him up and say to him, you know, help. Which is always good to have someone who you can do that. And also never be scared that if things are going wrong to the point of going badly wrong, phone someone you trust and you love. It could be your girlfriend, it could be your parents, it could be anyone. You know, even if it come to the point where you was that paranoid, that scared, that you phone the police, because the police can't actually arrest you, put you in a cell, anything like that. If you're tripping, they can only look after you as best they can.
Saying that, one festival we were at, wasn't there was that kid who was out with a group of his mates. You've always got to make sure you're with the right people. You know, never try anything out like this, because this kid, he'd done acid, got paranoid that everyone was like going to kill him for his friends, locked himself in his car and phoned the police. Do you know what I mean? And that shouldn't happen. You know, that's just the bad side of drugs. And you know,
I've had it with you. You know, I won't trip around Ricky.
Yeah.
For the simple fact that once when I was
too much.
Ricky was tripping. I don't know what, he wasn't tripping because he hadn't done no trips, but there was something weird going on anyway, and it was all too much for me. And I always said after that, didn't I, that you know, if I ever do trips, I'm never going to do them around Ricky again. You have to be so careful who you trip around.
Power of persuasion, innit? And and the thing is, like, so we've touched down on all that sort of side of things, and it's like with the paranoia and stuff. With me, it's like you always work in your brain, and all little things connect up, and you know, you should talk. You know, the best thing is to talk, because 9 times out of 10 it is all in your head. You know, and that's what progress is in the mental health, is because you don't want to, you know, tell anyone because you think that they're all out to get you and whatever. But just speak to someone as well.
I mean, Ricky will tell you I'm a very vocal tripper. You know, I like everyone to know exactly what I'm seeing. I like everyone to know exactly what I'm seeing. I like to enhance the mood of the room if the room's feeling a little bit flat, shall I say? You know, so you know, we've had our good times tripping, but it only takes one bad time. Yeah,
and it does take one bad time. Like as I said with the weed, it frightened the life out of me. I thought, you know, I was in hell and all this sort of stuff. And back around that time is, you know, I started doing NOS, nitrous oxide. And because I'm sort of an all or nothing guy, I did one balloon, you know, you breathe it in and you get that feeling. The first night I tried it, I did sort of like 20 balloons in sort of an hour, like, and was falling over and smashing my teeth because I did it sort of passed out, and it's not good, you know. And
I've never ever tripped on a NOS balloon.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. So it affects everyone completely different. So we could sit here and tell you what we've done, and it not affect you in that way. But yeah, my you know, in my life I did drugs to the point where I had to stop, and I, you know, I didn't get sectioned, but that's when, you know, the Maffrey Project stepped in and I got put on treatment. But on that night, you know, I went through this trip. I'd been doing sort of speed at a rave, ecstasy, balloons, and this night, you know, it all boils down to this. You're always connecting little paranoid things in your brain. I did a balloon, and I started tripping. I turned to my girlfriend at the time, and she turned into like this cat-eyed, looked at me like that, and I turned around, and my other mate's face was just going all like melting. I don't know if you ever done those, but it's like and in my brain I heard my sister, like in my head, sorry, I heard my sister go, you know, it's your choice. And then I made a decision in this trip, and it all like just turned into hell, and that was when all that happened. And when I come out of it, it was like that was like death and hell in my eyes, and that was the trip that ruined everything from in my life, you know. And I stopped for a long while. I went to live with my friend whose mum works in the mental hospital, and got me through help, and that put me on a break for a long while. But yes, you know. So was it never a time of like that in your life through drugs, or? I've never really stopped doing drugs. I've never had the inclination until recently, until the real world hit me, until shit got real, as I describe it to everyone close to me. You know, I say to everyone, look, you know, I had a great time, but shit got real. Yeah, it does. Yeah. Now, like, I want to discuss that more when we do our ketamine thing, because that all boils down at the end of the day. The turning point for me, as far as that goes, was the ketamine, and once we discuss that, we'll. So if we recap, because we're trying to go through our life, you know. So for me, like, I didn't really, because through our life we sort of meet up for years, and then you sort of go off and do your thing. That was a time I didn't really, I'd say know you, but we weren't in the circle at that time. So yeah, I got help, you know, stopped all the drugs. I stopped for a whole year, like no drugs at all.
I find that when people stop talking to me for a while, people get
off drugs. But no, you know, that is another thing. If you want to stop drugs, you have to change your friends. Yeah. You have to. If you've got friends full of drug takers, you're always going to take drugs if you want to get away from it.
And I mean, my biggest fear is the day that I die, is that, and I've said this to you, no, and I've said this to you before, is that people's only memory of me
was taking drugs.
Was, oh, you remember Jay, he used to go to parties and sell this and take this, and he was in this state and that state. That's not what I'm better than that, and that's what you've got to understand. You're better than the drug. You're you can sort of control. You can control your life, as much as possible. But when you take drugs, you're not. It's not controlling anything. You might think you're in control of your life, but what it boils down to at the end of the day is the drugs are controlling.
That's what I used to say. Like, people used to say, like, you're not in control or whatever. But I was in the self-destruct mode. You know, you want to destroy everything. And I want to recap on this before I forget about this. Like, you know, in my life, I wanted to do great things. You know, and people, you know, I just ended up taking drugs and flunked out on everything. You know, I'm 25 now. I wanted to go to acting school, all this and that. But I just give it all up because in my mind I could do it if I wanted to, and I just wanted to get wrecked because it was something different, and that's not the way to go. And we want to do this to sort of let people know that at the end of it all, you know better off. You know, fair enough, we've got memories, but memories of the friends are never around us. You know, we've got nothing to show for it apart from our experience and the way we're talking now. So, you know, it's just one of them things. So, at that point of our lives, you know, did you move to Yarmouth around that time, wasn't it then? Obviously, because I moved to Norwich, didn't I?
You moved to Norwich, yeah. I went back to London for a while, didn't I? Yeah. I went back to London for a while. I'm a qualified chef. I'll tell you this story. I was running a hotel in quite a posh area of London, and I was earning a hell of a lot of money. I mean, I was clearing £500-600 a week easily after tax, and I had nothing to spend it on. I had my room at the hotel that I lived in, my suite at the hotel that I lived in. I had all my food paid for, my drinks, everything. I didn't have to pay out for anything. So I was getting this £500-600 a week in, and it got to the point where I said, right, I don't work Fridays no more, I don't work Saturday mornings, because Friday was payday. and I'd go up into the city of London and get on it, you know. And it got to the point where I was starting to smoke crack, and because all the other drugs just weren't doing it for me, and everyone I knew at that time were all smoking crack, etc., etc. And so I got onto that. It was a hard time, but I'm one of these people that I know if I was ever rich, I couldn't handle being rich.
Yeah. Too much money. And
too much money.
I see it as well, like the reason why people do drugs as well is because this life, this system just doesn't work. It compresses us into a point where, you know, who wants to wake up every morning, go to work for someone else and come home and just spend sort of Saturday and Sunday recovering from working? You know, it's just it's not no life. I'd rather just sort of live, you know, for the weekend and just, you know, I don't know, it's just, you know what I mean? It's just compressed and you want it to
it's more getting your priorities right more than, you know, you have to understand that once you have responsibilities, I mean, if you're 16, 17, still living at home, you know, with your parents, etc., etc., you have no real responsibilities.
Yeah, nothing to do, you get bored.
However, the older you get, the more responsibility you get. I mean, we've both got kids.
Now,
Yeah, we've both got kids now. We've, you know, I'm still going through the point at the minute where I'm going to have to start fighting to see my child because of the past.
So let's go to that point now where I'd stopped drugs for a year, and then it was when the methadone come out, wasn't it?
Yes.
And basically, the girl I was with at the time, this is what I mean. I stopped drugs, and even though I was, you know, clinically like ill from drugs, people around me kept doing them. You know, my girlfriend at the time was doing methadone. That's what I started doing methadone again, and I thought, you know, I just thought basically any drug I did would bring that trip back on, and it did. And methadone didn't. It was illegal at the time. Everyone was doing it, so I got heavily into that. Got back in contact with Jamie. You were in Yarmouth. You'd just had a baby, weren't you? So you'd sort of stopped everything for a bit, but still smoked the weed and stuff. It's sort of a staple diet of yours, isn't it? But so Jamie started coming back round. I was always against ketamine. This is what I mean. This is like the naive side of it. You'll look at people doing drugs and you don't understand what's going on in their head or in their lives. I started sort of just taking methadone again, and then sort of the ketamine. I sort of tried it one night, little by little, and it just makes, you know.
I remember when a gram of ketamine used to last the pair of us all weekend.
Yeah, 1 gram, you know, because you do a little bit. And the way I see it is ketamine is, you know, one of them things that, you know, I used to taking methadone, buzzing on ecstasy, whatever speed, is all night the same, up here, just all the time, like, buzzing, at one level all the time. Fair enough, we used to trip on pills, but it got to the point where that didn't really make you trip anymore. We used to do so much MDMA, you'd just be buzzing, and just you know, you just couldn't walk, you just couldn't talk, you didn't want to dance anymore, because it got to the point where I'd learned to just let it take over, and then in the end it was just taking over too much. So then I just started doing K, and got really addicted to ketamine and methadone at the same time. I'd mix it all up, do a line, and it would sort of make you buzz, but it'd make you trip. And ketamine to me was quite dark on its own. You'd do it and then you'd worry, you'd get scared. But then there was times where obviously if you mix it, you're buzzing, and it just sort of, it's like mental acid for me.
Yeah.
And it just, you know, that's why it got so into it. And then when you come over, we used to just sort of have parties at my house. Got you into it, didn't I? And it was just one of them things. So, like, explain it for you.
Well, yeah, I remember the first time I got offered. Well, I used to have a go at Ricky. I remember when I used to go around there, and I was like, because I never liked K-heads. Yeah, this is the whole thing. I never enjoyed going to raves and seeing people looking like zombies.
But nor did I.
Yeah.
There was a time when I was at rave, there'd be like these, you know, 15 to 16-year-old girls, you know, they would have been very attractive, but they just so rough looking, all white nose, all fake, all falling over each other, cutting themselves. You know, if that was my little sister, you know, I would have kicked off so bad. And I used to look at them, and I did say to them, I said, "Why do you do it?" And they just look at you, and just, to us, at the time, it looked so like the wrongest drug to do. But when I eventually did it, you just see why. And
yeah, I mean, I class ketamine as the new heroin.
Definitely.
It affects people in a way that you can't explain other than being a smackhead. Really?
I don't know. Like, that's what I mean. But this is where we're completely different on it.
Yeah.
You know.
Because to me, like, it's a complete disassociate. why people take it to raves and take it at raves, I can understand now, but I still look at it and think, you know, it's lost the union. The drugs, instead of doing ecstasy and speed and stuff like that, that feel one big unity. It's a disassociate. You've got no way of.
It's acid for the mind, I think.
Yeah, completely. But I mean, it got to the point where after I was doing this 1 gram all weekend to 6 months ago having the habit of doing 15 grams a day.
Yeah.
I mean, that's enough to tranquilise an elephant.
Yeah. Like for me, like ketamine, you know, it's like when I first did it and like we'd end up doing too much, you know. I can remember a time when I was standing in my flat holding one girl on this side who was freaking out bad, and another one on this side that just didn't even have nothing going on, like it was just motionless. And I'm sitting there, and my whole room was just, and I could feel this thing like coming, like, and that was obviously the case. But to me, it might just be the way I am, you know. Let me know how it is for you. But I was just so in control and so ready and so alert. That was just set the standard for me and Kay.
Whereas I was completely different. I'd sit on the sofa and
be gone
for however many minutes or hours, or whatever. So yeah, I mean, ketamine's been the bane of my life, to be fair.
Yeah.
It got to, you know, I still to this day owe people money for it. I still to this day know a lot of people that still go out and do it. But the crux of it all, at the end of the day, I saw no way out.
Mm. Yeah,
you know?
It's just one of them things.
I saw absolutely no way out of getting out of this habit. You know, to the point where I took myself off to a place where not many people knew me and tried to kill myself, and ended up in hospital because of it. Now it's tough, because even to this day, like, no matter how much we can sit and talk about, etc., etc., once you're an addict, you've always got that addiction.
But that's what I mean. It's not once you're an addict, because you're an addict to something, to life. Like, as I said, when I was young, I was addicted to life. I wanted to live forever. I thought we were living forever. Yeah. So when that gets taken away from you, you want something else. You know, something else to live and have forever. Like, and for me, ketamine is. I don't know if I'm the only one, so please let me know what you like. But when I do K, it's like, boom, my mind. You know, if I, as I said, like ecstasy or mephedrone, it'd make you really buzzy and want to sit there like this and not do anything really. I'll do a line of K, I'll feel like what I did, but I'll be able to move and dance and feel really technical and like, you know, do so much things. And that was just me though, because I think I'm so hyper anyway. I need something to stabilise the way I'm feeling when I do drugs. So you could get someone like me who does K and want to get up and just do all this technical dancing, you know, go and stand on top of their TV unit to look at the world a different way and that sort of thing. But then you get someone like you and a lot of people you see out at raves just falling over, looking at your blank faces and stuff, you know. So it is two different ways of looking at it.
I mean, I just saw the beginning of the end of raves
when ketamine
come along and everyone was doing it. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I know people who are 20 years old, have had kids taken away from them, have no bladder anymore,
injecting
it. I had to go and deal with that just while I was trying to sort of bring myself off the ketamine. I was living with someone who was injecting ketamine, and that was probably the toughest time of my life, to sit there and watch people, obviously having done heroin before, and I've watched people die, I've found people dead. It's horrible. It's the most horrible thing. I never ever wanted to relive that again, and that's what I can see ketamine has become.
That's what drugs is really. It leads to, you know, if you start out in your life wanting to search and find something better, there's a lot of other things in life, like, you know, maybe, you know, working for yourself, a good career. You know, if you're like me, I don't like working for people, making them lots of money. You know, do something. You know, if you're on this planet for 18 years, but you do whatever you want, live for the moment. Do it, you know, then spend sort of 70, 80 years taking drugs and searching for something. Fair enough, do drugs, but in moderate, and understand it. You know, don't let it overtake you. You know, don't let it destroy you. And the things with Kay, for me, it felt so connected. Like, I can remember trips where I'd be sitting there, and it may be real, it may be fake, it may all just be in my mind, but it was a game for me. Like, I'd sit there and I'd feel connected to someone in Tokyo on my phone, and I'd just be thinking and just. But that's how my mind was when I was at school, like first school, like I could sit there and connect and go to the other side of the world when I was trying to see. So I don't know whether that's just me and on that K.
That's definitely different to how I find it. I mean, we was discussing this earlier. Sorry, you don't need to know that, but we were discussing this earlier about, you know, I went through a stage where we was doing ketamine all the time, and you know, the bigger and bigger the lines got, etc., etc.
You know, it's just ridiculous.
And every time I tripped on ketamine, it was the end of my life. Everything had built up to that moment, and I thought I was going to die. And this happened every single time. I carried on and on doing it.
The way I see ketamine, and I explained at the time, it's like a frightening drug. Yeah. It's like, why do you go on the scariest roller coaster? Because it's frightening, and that's why you get addicted to it. That's why I like doing a buzzy, because it doesn't really make you that frightened, but it does, and you can get over it. Like, you go on a roller coaster, think you're going to die. Every time I go on a roller coaster, still I think I'm going to die. That's why I do it. And that's what ketamine is.
Final destination.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Like, when you do K, it's like you're on the end of the line. And as human beings, like, our society now doesn't doesn't expose us to that every day. But back in the day when we were at just, you know, and that's what we were exposed to every day, and I think that's why we still thrive for it as well. That's another reason, because that fear of like life, and you know, it's funny as well, because I used to have a trip, as I said, that would go and I was in hell, and you know, every time basically I restart my life, and that's what I did, and that's what my trip is as well, pretty much the same as yours. But I can remember when we were in my living room, like we'd do a fat line of K, like the three of us or whatever, and the whole floor would just fall, and I'd fall through it. And one of my trips is that this reality, this creation, these walls have been here for millions and millions of years. This what we see, but they just change us every so often. We just change into something else. But it was behind the scenes of life and the world, and that's what ketamine was to me. It was a hacker's code behind the matrix, pretty much. Yeah. And that's why I get addicted to it. Well, I was addicted to it, and that's why I still sit here now, a year and a half later, wanting it like so bad, even though I've got a family now, and you know, if I did it,
you just lose everything.
It's like, you know, it would just ruin everything, and you've seen it firsthand with your life, and through ketamine, he's lost everything, haven't you?
I've lost a lot. You know, I was a successful businessman. Family man. I owned pubs. I had the perfect family. You know, there's no excuse. There's no excuse, but apart from every time.
Is it because
every time I've lost everything, and I've done it loads of times. I've lost everything a lot. Yeah. It's been through drugs, you know, and you can't go through life.
But is it because it feels like it's never enough? But the way I see it is, the reason why like we do it is because no matter what, you need to find the root of the problem, you know, and for me, as I said, the major root for me for a long while is the fear of death. Like, I don't know what you do, I don't know if you believe in God or what your religion is, or what, you know, you have to get over these fears, because you can't keep running away from them. You have to face them and not, you know, bury your head in.
I mean, this is what I turned around to my psychiatrist and said, like, when I actually got put into hospital, I said to him, I said, I was just tired. I've been running my whole life, and I'm old. Yeah. And 6 months ago, 9 months ago, I was out raving with 16, 17, 18-year-olds, you know, and doing as many drugs, if not more, than all of them, and I'm 31. Yeah. I'm old. You know, I'm not saying that is old, but what I'm saying is I feel old. I've done 17 years, and I've been running for 17 years, and I needed to stop. Yeah. I needed someone to say, look, Jamie, you know, I was on self-destruct. I lost my nan, my fiance,
and
my kid. I lost everything in the space of 4 weeks, and it was a lot for me. And I decided that was it. I'm on self-destruct. I'm going to try and kill myself.
Same with me. Like, my girlfriend at the time, we were going through a bad patch. She went and got pregnant. slept with her ex, was still sleeping with me and didn't know who it was, and that was like back in the day when I went crazy. That's why he was there for me, but then lost everything because we ended up getting entangled in the ketamine. I lost, all respect of life and just wanted to just go absolutely crazy, and to us that was an escape. And there's
and all we needed, and to be fair, all we needed was each other to turn around and say, we need to stop this.
Yeah, but we didn't, because we both lost the will to want to wake up in the morning, and you shouldn't let it get to that problem. You should sort of seek help, speak to people, and get it out there. And don't be afraid to. There is always another way of dealing with things, and that's what we want to sort of be here, let you know our experiences, so you don't think we're just sitting here preaching to you and not been through it, because we have. We'll go into a lot more detail on different things that you want us to, but like the main thing is we know what we've been through, and we know what we're talking about, and it sort of haunts us today. I've got a little baby at home, he's now 9 months, I've got a girlfriend there, and it's is it really worth throwing all that away?
For a high?
Yeah, just it's not. It's not.
It's not even a high.
It's just trying to just escape this reality, and I think as a collective human beings, we should fight for a better life and a better system, because it's not working. That's what they want us to do. They want us to be this way. They want us to not really have any hope. So we just conform, and we end up just taking drugs and sort of ruining our lives, and it's not good. We want to sort of help as much people as we can.
And that's what we want. We want from you is to write to us, message us, do whatever you like. If you want to send it private, I'll give you out an email address at the end of the show.
Or they can just private message me on YouTube.
Private message on YouTube. Yeah. But honestly, that's what we want. We want to be here to help you, not.
Well, I suppose we can make up our own email address.
Yeah.
The reality of drugs. Obviously, we both have this password, so we can both sign in and sort of maybe look at it like that. So we'll look at it into like that. As I said, give us comments and stuff. Like this episode, we wanted to look at experiences. I know it's been a long episode. It's sort of 41 minutes now, but hopefully, you're bearing with us. You're sort of speaking to us, and you're sort of understanding where we're coming from. But yeah.
In the next episode, I'd like to go deeper into the more, what I call the darker side of drugs, the non-recreational.
We've had lots and lots of fun. Don't get me wrong, it is fun.
We've had some great times in our life.
You've got to learn to know when to realise that it's become a problem. It's like if I wanted to go out and drive my car around all day, I'll go. Something eventually becomes a problem if you don't have control over it. And there's various things in life that makes you lose control, but you've got to fight on and be strong. So.
Yeah. So I think we'll end on those words: fight on and be strong.
Yeah. So that was the reality of drugs.
Episode 2.
Hope to see you next week, and sort of, as I said, make some comments and leave them and share the video, and obviously spread the word. But take care. Thank you.